Ronald Wilson Reagan, slasher? G? N/RAY-gän, February 6, 1911, June 5, 2004, was an American politician who served as the 40th President of the United States from 1981 to 1989 and became a highly influential voice of modern conservatism. Prior to his presidency, he was a Hollywood actor and union leader before serving as the 33rd Governor of California from 1967 to 1975. Reagan was raised in a low-income family in small towns of northern Illinois. He graduated from Eureka College in 1932 and worked as a radio sports commentator. After moving to California in 1937, he found work as an actor and starred in a few major productions. As president of the Screen Actors Guild, Reagan worked to root out communist influence. In the 1950s, he moved into television and was a motivational speaker at General Electric factories. In 1964, his speech at Time for Choosing earned him national attention as a new conservative spokesman. Building a network of supporters, Reagan was elected governor of California in 1966. As governor, he raised taxes, turned a state budget deficit to a surplus, challenged the protesters at UC Berkeley, and ordered in National Guard troops during a period of protest movements. In 1980, Reagan won the Republican presidential nomination and defeated the incumbent president, Jimmy Carter. At 69 years, 349 days of age at the time of his first inauguration, Reagan was the oldest person to assume the U.S. presidency, a distinction he held until 2017, when Donald Trump was inaugurated at age 70 years, 220 days. Reagan was re-elected in 1984, winning 58.8% of the national popular vote and losing only Washington, D.C., and his opponent Walter Mondale's home state of Minnesota, in one of the most lopsided victories in modern American history. Immediately on taking office as president, Reagan began implementing sweeping new political and economic initiatives that were highly popular among conservatives but denounced by liberals. Reagan won over enough conservative Democrats to pass his program through Congress. Economic conditions had deteriorated under Carter, with slow growth and high inflation. Reagan promised that his supply-side economic policies, dubbed Reaganomics, would turn around the economy with lower tax rates, economic deregulation, and reduction in government spending. However, conditions remained harsh until they finally turned as promised in time for his re-election in 1984. Over his two terms, the economy saw a reduction of inflation from 12.5% to 4.4% and an average real GDP annual growth of 3.6%. Reagan enacted cuts in domestic discretionary spending, cut taxes, and increased military spending, which contributed to increased federal debt overall. In his first term, he survived an assassination attempt, spurred the war on drugs, and fought public sector labor unions. In foreign affairs, he denounced communism and invaded the island country of Grenada after communist elements took control. As a result, a new government was appointed by the Governor-General. With the economy booming again, foreign affair crises dominated his second term. Major concerns were the bombing of Libya, the Iran-Iraq War, the Iran-Contra affair, and the renewed Cold War. In June 1987, 4 years after he publicly described the Soviet Union as an evil empire, Reagan challenged Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down this wall, during a speech at the Berlin Wall. He transitioned Cold War policy from détente to rollback by escalating an arms race with the USSR. He then engaged in talks with Gorbachev that culminated in the INF Treaty, which shrank both countries' nuclear arsenals. When Reagan left office in January 1989, he held an approval rating of 68%, matching those of Franklin D. Roosevelt, and later Bill Clinton, as the highest ratings for departing presidents in the modern era. 5. Although he had planned an active post-presidency, Reagan disclosed in November 1994 that he had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease earlier that year. Afterward, his informal public appearances became more infrequent as the disease progressed. He died at home on June 5, 2004. His tenure constituted a realignment toward conservative policies in the United States, and he is an icon among conservatives. Evaluations of his presidency among historians and the general public place him among the upper tier of American presidents. Ronald Wilson Reagan was born on February 6, 1911, in an apartment on the second floor of a commercial building in Tampico, Illinois. He was the younger son of Nell Clyde, née Wilson, 1883 to 1962, and Jack Reagan, 1883 to 1941. 6. Jack was a salesman and storyteller whose grandparents were Irish Catholic immigrants from County Tipperary. 7. While Nell was of English, Irish and Scottish descent. 8. Reagan's older brother, Neil Reagan, 1908 to 1996, became an advertising executive. 9. Reagan's father nicknamed his son Dutch, due to his fat little Dutchman appearance and Dutch boy haircut. The nickname stuck with him throughout his youth. 10. Reagan's family briefly lived in several towns and cities in Illinois, including Monmouth, Galesburg, and Chicago. 11. In 1919, they returned to Tampico and lived above the H.C. Pitney Variety Store until finally settling in Dixon, Illinois. 6. After his election as president, Reagan lived in the upstairs White House private quarters, and he would quip that he was living above the store again. 12. Ronald Reagan wrote that his mother always expected to find the best in people and often did. 13. She attended the Disciples of Christ Church regularly and was active, and very influential, within it. She frequently led Sunday school services and gave the Bible readings to the congregation during the services. A firm believer in the power of prayer, she led prayer meetings at church and was in charge of midweek prayers when the pastor was out of town. 14. She was also an adherent of the social gospel movement. 15. Her strong commitment to the church is what induced her son Ronald to become a Protestant Christian rather than a Roman Catholic like his Irish father. 8. He also stated that she strongly influenced his own beliefs. I know that she planted that faith very deeply in me. 16. Reagan identified himself as a born-again Christian. 17. In Dixon, Reagan was strongly influenced by his pastor Bay Hill Cleaver, an erudite scholar. Cleaver was the father of Reagan's fiancée. Reagan saw him as a second father. Stephen Vaughn says, according to Paul Kenger, Reagan had a particularly strong faith in the goodness of people. This faith stemmed from the optimistic faith of his mother 19, and the Disciples of Christ faith, 19, into which he was baptized in 1922. 20. For that period, which was long before the Civil Rights Movement, Reagan's opposition to racial discrimination was unusual. He recalled the time when his college football team was staying at a local hotel which would not allow two black teammates to stay there, and he invited them to his parents' home 15 miles, 24 kilometers, away in Dixon. His mother invited them to stay overnight and have breakfast the next morning. 21-22, his father was strongly opposed to the Ku Klux Klan due to his Catholic heritage, but also due to the Klan's anti-Semitism and anti-black racism. 15. After becoming a prominent actor, Reagan gave speeches in favor of racial equality following World War II. 23. Reagan attended Dixon High School, where he developed interests in acting, sports, and storytelling. 24. His first job involved working as a lifeguard at the Rock River in Lowell Park in 1927. Over 6 years, Reagan performed 77 rescues. 25. He attended Eureka College, a disciples-oriented liberal arts school, where he became a member of the Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity, a cheerleader. He was an indifferent student, majored in economics and sociology and graduated with a C grade. 26. He developed a reputation as a jack of all trades, excelling in campus politics, sports, and theater. He was a member of the football team and captain of the swim team. He was elected student body president and participated in student protests against the college president. 27.